The Netherlands is famous for many reasons. It is well known for its colorful tulip fields, for its iconic windmills, and for the love of its citizens for cycling around instead of driving. But this European nation is also famous for more practical reasons, namely its entrepreneurial culture. This national mindset, well regarded and recognized internationally, has helped keep the country among the wealthiest countries in the world. Today, the Netherlands is one of the top 20 countries in terms of GDP per capita in the world. The nation even ranks better than other economic powerhouses such as Germany, Australia, France, or the UK. The economic development of the Netherlands has come despite the country having a relatively small surface area. Its size is only 7.5% of that of France, 11.6% of Germany, and 0.2% the area of the United States. This striking difference in size not only influences the state's economic capabilities, but also impacts other basic needs of a country like the ability to produce food to sustain its population. Surprisingly, the small country of the Netherlands not only manages to produce enough food for its citizens despite having little surface area, it is also one of the world's leaders in food exports. Only the United States exports more agricultural products than the European country, the Netherlands leading in onions and potatoes and having the record among European countries of the Union's first meat exporter. So, how does a tiny country get to feed the world? The feat of the Netherlands can't be overstated. In 2023, the country exported nearly 124 billion euros in agricultural products. It exported dairy and eggs for a total of 12 billion euros, 11.5 billion euros in ornamental plant products, 11.2 billion euros in meat, 8.7 billion euros in potatoes and vegetables, and 8.1 billion euros in beverages. Moreover, the nation's food export value has been growing consistently in the last few years. They even grew in 2020 in the face of the global coronavirus crisis. So the latest run of Dutch agricultural exports growth saw the country gaining 1% in 2020, a 9.4% in 2021, 17% in 2022, and 1.6% in 2023. A consistent growth in value that has allowed the small country to reach the top of the world food exporters. It is, however, important to introduce a caveat to the Netherlands' whooping export figures. In some occasions, the total value of the exports of a given product can soar without the actual exports in volume growing. This happens when product prices fluctuate, which means it also happens in times of high inflation. That has been happening with the Netherlands. Much of the growth of the export value has been provoked by price raises rather than a growing volume. That happened according to the Statistics Bureau of the Netherlands in 2022. Export prices of most agricultural goods were up relative to 2021. The main factor in this is that farmers, horticulturalists, and food manufacturers pass on cost increases in their prices as much as possible. Farmers need to pay more for cattle feed, raw materials, and mineral fertilizers, for instance, while horticulturalists face steep energy costs, among other things. Food manufacturers had to deal with rising expenses for both food raw materials and the processing process due to higher energy, packaging, and transport costs. At the same time, there is also a geographical reason that has contributed to the trading character of the Netherlands as a country. Located in Central Europe, it is perfectly placed to export to other countries. As such, nowadays the Netherlands' four main partners all share one feature: they are relatively close to the country. According to the country's statistics service, in 2021 the top four destinations of the Netherlands' agricultural exports were Germany, which received a quarter of the total exports, Belgium with 12%, France with 8%, and the UK, whose importance has been rapidly decreasing and got a meager 8%. Still, over half of the country's land is used for agriculture, a practice in which the Dutch have found the path to excellence. As such, it takes them just under 2 liters of water to grow half a kilo of tomatoes. It takes over 100 liters anywhere else. This effectiveness allows Dutch farmers to supply vegetables to a big part of Western Europe. Moreover, the Dutch approach has also been applied to cattle. The country has reached a point at which it annually produces 4 million cows, 13 million pigs, and over 100 million chickens. Besides the price influence and the privileged location, the status of the Netherlands as the world's second largest exporter can't be overlooked. The world's leader, the United States, is roughly 270 times bigger than the European Kingdom of the Netherlands. So what does a country have to do to be able to produce food in such quantities? The first thing to understand about the Dutch people has to do with a few features that are deeply rooted in the country's national identity. The Kingdom of the Netherlands, small, located in the center of Europe and open to the sea, has always fostered a culture of trade and entrepreneurship. A set of attitudes born of necessity and history, and a clever approach by the different political elites. A combination that rendered a near constant exposure to new technologies and ideas and a deep focus on trade. As such, it is not a coincidence that the Netherlands was one of the countries that established earlier trading posts in the US during the European conquest of the so-called New World, settlements that went on to become sprawling cities such as New York and New Jersey. Two cities, in both cases, still play an outsized role in a big part of the flow of cargo in and out of the United States. Historically, the Netherlands owes a great deal of these cultural features to the Huguenots. These Protestants, who had to flee France in the 16th and 17th centuries to escape religious persecution, contributed to fostering a flourishing trading culture in the country. Around the same time, at the beginning of the 17th century, two different institutions were created that ended up being crucial to encouraging Dutch trade around the globe. The first one was the creation of the stock exchange in Amsterdam. This development allowed for the funding of larger projects and for more investors to bet into companies, further contributing to the growth of enterprises. The second one was the creation of the Dutch East India Company. This organization, which went on to become the first multinational company and was also shamefully involved in the slave trade, also contributed to making the Netherlands the largest trading empire in the world. But besides a long-standing culture of innovation, another factor has pushed the Netherlands into searching for new technologies to help maximize its food production: the need to feed its 17.6 million population. Today, the Dutch population, although slowly, has been consistently growing for an entire decade. According to World Bank data, the country had a 0.4% population growth in 2014 and has ever since expanded its population growth rate up to the 1% growth of 2023. This need for food fueled the hunt for food technologies to scale its production. The results can be seen in places like the Seed Valley, a food production hub 1 hour north of Amsterdam, focused on breeding, you've guessed it, seeds. In this area, on the outskirts of the city of Hoorn, the world's largest seed companies try to develop food suitable for the future of humankind. To do so, they focus on crops that can answer some of the predictable hurdles we will face in feeding ourselves in the future. They engineer crops that produce more food per acre, improve vegetables that can withstand the attacks of certain fungi, and modify fruits so that they can make it through seasons of particularly high temperatures. The will to dive into seed development technology has encompassed almost any technology that points to the future of producing food. As such, the Netherlands has embraced a spearheading role in food innovation by betting on developments like vertical farming, robotics, cell-cultured meat, and the use of technology to decrease water usage and water waste and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Today, the agricultural production industry in the Netherlands is a well-oiled machine that makes the most of the latest innovations. It is also, like many things when it comes to the European country, vastly efficient. The greenhouse technology being used in the country allows Dutch farmers to grow the same amount of crops in one single acre of land that would have required 10 acres using traditional farming techniques, and still use less water and fertilizer than it would take in the traditional way. The country has also successfully applied the same search for efficiency to livestock production. In 2020, the small country had the highest livestock density in the European Union. While the other countries of the Union had an average 0.7 livestock units per hectare, the Netherlands had 3.4 units of livestock per hectare of territory. So the Dutch also managed to produce more livestock with less land, a feat which points to them again having reached a higher peak in efficiency than most of their neighbors. Today, the production and export of food are important drivers of the Dutch economy. In 2020, the international sales of 8.8 billion euros of Dutch meat to the world contributed 1.1% of the country's GDP. And according to the government of the country, the agricultural sector is responsible for roughly 10% of the Dutch economy and employment. Last year, 2023, the Dutch economy earned more than 50 billion euros from exporting agricultural products, out of which more than 45 were from goods produced within the country. It sold more than 124 billion euros worth of food to other countries. The strength of the food production industry has also boosted the Dutch economy in other ways. The culture of applying innovation to food production and processing has attracted behemoths of the industry. 15 out of the 20 largest companies in the sector have R&D centers in the country's territory, including industry leaders like Nestlé, Coca-Cola, and Unilever. But besides the economic gains, this particular mix of culture, history, and geography has brought another accomplishment to this country in Central Europe: the ability, being a tiny country, to feed the world.